our discussion of conditionals.
Yeah, I'll take the notes.
Pay attention.
And you
Do not talk. Pay attention.
If I
Yes,
take
that's
notes,
fine.
can you
Okay. So today we are going on with our conditionals. So we basically have this form. Some statement P implies some other statement Q. And it doesn't have to be a P and Q. It could be any letter representing any one thing. That's a conditional. We talked yesterday about this being considered like a promise. And this is going to be true all the time unless I break a promise. So if I had a true implies a true, some true statement imply a true statement, I would say and conclude therefore true. And if I had a true, like you met the condition, see this is our antecedent. This is our consequent. Consequent. The consequence of your choice here. So if you meet the condition, consequent happens. So you met the condition. Maybe our promise is if we have an average in class of a 90, then we have a movie night. Or something. Movie class. So you all, you don't all have to get a 90, but our class average is 90. Then I gave you movie class. So true. I kept my promise. You guys had a class average of 90, but then I'm like, nah, we're behind. So no movie. Well, then you say you're a liar. So that's a false, because I broke my promise. And if I had a true, or a false then, and you didn't meet the condition, you guys did not have a class average, but then I said, let's have a movie night anyway. I didn't break my promise, I'm just really generous. So that's true. And then if it's false, and then I don't give you a movie, you don't have a class average of 90, and we also don't have a movie. I didn't break my promise because you didn't earn the privilege. So that's true. I didn't break a promise. So we only have false if a promise is broken. So we're thinking, I'm using that as an example so you understand how an implication works. But don't like overanalyze that, okay? It's only false if you meet the condition, but then the consequent does not follow. Okay, so that's a conditional, but what we're going to work on today is really, first of all, we're going to work on negation, and we're going to talk about converse, inverse, and contrapositive of a conditional. Yes?
I don't think we have finished this junction.
I explained at the beginning of class that I'm going on. Yes?
For the third one down, it says false, and then you gave it, like, so if we didn't get above 90 and you gave us a movie, why wouldn't it be false?
Right here, the third one. So you didn't meet the condition.
Yes.
So I'm like, let's have a movie anyway. Did I break my promise? Nope.
You were generous.
I was just generous, and you got the movie anyway. Even though you didn't meet the condition, the consequence still happened. The only time we have a false is when the condition is met. The antecedent happens, but the consequent does not. Okay, so negation. Let's say it's this symbol. It means not. Okay? So if I had the statement, Cain is fat. Okay?
That's not a statement.
Okay? So this is our statement. This is our P. So if I said not P, that would mean Cain is not fat. Okay? We just switch the truth value. So if I said not true, that would mean false. And if I said not false, that would mean
True.
true. Okay, I got one on board with me. Negation switches it. Now be careful with negation. We're actually going to prove a little bit later that you cannot distribute a negation. It's not like a -1. Okay, I can't distribute it to all my things. Like if I had a sentence here and I said P implies Q, and I had a negation out here, I can't do this. I can't just distribute that negation symbol. And it appears that my thing is dead. So I'll give you a moment to copy that. That is not an invitation to start talking. I'm going to have to be tethered. I don't want to be tethered, but I'm going to have to. This is what happens when you leave your stuff on. Okay, anyways, now I can resume. You're like, oh, poor us. All right, let's go on. All right, so let's say I have a Venn diagram. This is a Venn diagram. This circle, everything inside the circle is also a part of what I put in here. Let's say, we're just going to talk in generalities here. Let's say I have an animal that gives milk. I could then conclude that this creature that gives milk is a mammal. Okay? So what am I saying? Well, all animals that give milk are mammals, right? So if I write this as a conditional, I might say if it's a animal that gives milk, then it's a mammal. So this is my antecedent, that I have a creature that gives milk. My consequent is it's a mammal. Let's do another one. Maybe I have something like this. Let's say if I have a fraction. Okay, then I might say, well, a fraction is a real number. So I would say, this sentence might start out, fractions are real numbers. And that's true. Fractions are real numbers. Notice this is not written as a conditional. So maybe I need to switch it to be a conditional. So I say, if I have a fraction, or the number is a fraction, then it's a real number. Okay?
Okay.
Let's take if I have Kip's example. Let's start with this statement. Cows are mammals.
What?
Okay? Anyways, cows are mammals. This is not written as a conditional, so I'm going to change it to a conditional. Emma's about to die. So I might say if
I don't know what you're laughing at.
if it's a cow, then it's a mammal. Maybe I have something like this. 2 times 4 is 8.
Right.
Let's try to write this as a conditional. If we multiply 2 and 4, then it's 8. Okay? See, we make it a conditional statement. So when might this be false? If we multiply 2 and 4 and we don't get 8. That would be the opposite of that.
That would be me.
Okay, so what we're going to do now, hopefully you get the gist of that. Let's talk about converse.
It's a shoe brand.
Converse. This is when we switch the antecedent and consequent. Ignore my terrible spelling. Okay, so we switch the antecedent and consequent. So if I have a converse, I start with P implies Q. This is what I start with. The converse is going to be when we do Q implies P. We just switched them around. So, if I had if the animal has fins,
A dolphin.
then it's a fish. Whether this is true or not doesn't matter. If I want the converse of this, I'm going to switch the order of that. So the converse is I switch the antecedent and consequent. So I'm going to say if it's a fish,
It has fins.
then it has fins.
If it has feet, then it's not a fish.
Ooh, you sure?
I am positive
What
that
fish has?
feet
I'm
is
not joking. Which fish has feet?
It must be a cane.
Look it up and be surprised.
Really?
Okay, anyways. We switched those.
Please leave that up there.
Here's a very important fact. Whether this first sentence is true or not, whether this converse is true or not, important converse is not logically equivalent
I don't know what that is.
to what we start with. I'm going to explain it.
Thank you.
The converse is not logically equivalent to what you start with. That means what that basically means is if it's logically equivalent, it gets the same truth value no matter which way we think of it. So, let's see here. If I say, if there's lightning outside, then soccer practice is canceled. Okay? Lightning outside, soccer practice is canceled. So, that's a true sentence. That is absolutely the case. If I do the converse of that, I would be saying, if soccer practice is canceled, then there's lightning outside, which is not necessarily true. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Just because practice is canceled doesn't mean there's always lightning outside. Maybe your coaches all died or something. You know?
Why do you always think about death?
I'm a morbid person. All right, we're going on. Inverse. Inverse is when we negate the antecedent and consequent. I'm going to abbreviate that because I don't need to spell it wrong like 20 times in your notes. But negate is spelled right. So if we start with P implies Q, the inverse is when we negate both of those.
So,
Now it's not that I distributed a negation, but it's just I switched those. So I'm going to give an example, and if there's questions after the example, then I'll say it. So if I'm running out of examples. If
Trump builds a wall and gets out.
No. If
But you talk about dying.
okay, we just if you are sad,
You're in math.
then
You're
you
Or in geometry.
are in
Kane's presence.
math.
I was gonna
Class.
say would
sad,
change.
then your name is Emma.
Okay, so here's our, whether this is true or not doesn't matter. If we're going to do the inverse of that, we're going to change this to say, if you aren't sad,
You aren't in that class.
which we could say is happy, so if you're happy, then you aren't in math class. So we just change those. And like converse, this is not logically equivalent to what we start with. Whether it evaluates to the same thing, true or false, as in what it started with, doesn't matter. It's not logically equivalent. Let's go back to the soccer example. If there's lightning, then practice is canceled. If we negate both of those, if there's not lightning, then there's not practice. Okay, that's not necessarily the same.
Wait, I have a question before you
Okay.
change it. What is that abbreviation up there with the C?
Antecedent and consequent.
Antecedent and
I
consequent.
have a question.
You did the abbreviation wrong.
Do these definitions, do they need to go in that special little thing that you told us to make? Not to make, but...
No,
Bank
No.
definition.
you will not have this in your bank. That's
No, quiz tomorrow.
no.
We don't have it.
Okay, there has not been an invitation for you all to start talking. Contrapositive. And I'll just right away say this is the only one that is always logically equivalent. And this is basically when you do both inverse and converse. You switch the antecedent and consequent and you negate them. So you switch and negate antecedent and consequent. So if we start with P implies Q, the contrapositive is not Q implies not P. So let's use our soccer example. If there's lightning, then practice is canceled. If I do the contrapositive of that, I'm going to switch the antecedent and consequent, and I'm going to say if
There's no.
practice, if there is practice, so we actually have practice, so practice is not canceled.
If practice equals true.
Yeah, so we actually have practice. Then, no lightning.
Yeah, I guess that could be true.
And that would definitely be the case, because there's no way that you'd have practice and there also be lightning. I don't know, maybe Coach Hines is really out to get you. I guess it might be the case.
You left the bottle out.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to just to clarify something about your antecedent. Your book uses this word, hypothesis.
No.
Hypothesis is the same as the antecedent. Same thing, just using a different word.
Thanks for the...
Okay, and the consequence, your book uses a different word also. I'm
God.
antecedent. Okay, they use the word conclusion.
I
So
like
just to
that
clarify that. So we have hypothesis and conclusion.
Oh.
All right, so those are synonymous.